2020, start of a brand new year, start of a brand new decade, according to some calendars. But does anybody really know what time it is? No, we don't. And yet there is something in the collective psyche that we tap into in this moment about the newness. But we should remember that every moment of every day has that same opportunity. Every moment of every day has that same opportunity. We have heard the phrase that today is the first day of the rest of your life. Well, today is also the first day of the rest of your past. You're not stuck with your past. When today becomes yesterday tomorrow, tomorrow, this day will be yesterday. So what you do today starts a new past. You start a new past by what you do today. Our theme this month is discernment. Discernment. I went to my spirit definitions about that this morning. And I've been just chewing and mulling with it because it was a pretty simple definition. And in these definitions, it's always the same things, where the spiritual qualities are defined as a where, not a when, not an action that's localized, not a specific thing that happened, but an energetic field that's available at all times. And it always explains what it is that we bring to the table, what's already here, and what that connector is. What is that action that needs to connect between what we have and what's already here in order for us to experience the spiritual quality? So it said very simply, it said discernment is where your understanding synchronizes with my knowing. Discernment is where your understanding synchronizes with my knowing. Now, I was going to read to you some definitions, but my phone is being a camera. Now, this is one of those things that I joke about. Spirit voice said this morning, write the definitions down. I got it here in my phone. 3 or 4 times, write these definitions down. Did I do it? No. Now, I know that never happens to anybody else here, where later on you go, oh. So I broke one of my own new resolutions. I had resolved about 6 months or so ago that when I find myself arguing to not do something, that's my cue. I don't always discern it as the spirit voice guiding me. Sometimes I'm not quite catching that. But I'm really clear when I'm arguing against something. That I'm clear about. I'm very clear when I'm trying to figure out all the reasons why I don't need to do it or whatever. And it's, it's like ridiculous. I get this message, just take the umbrella. I'm looking outside, is it going to rain? Take the umbrella. I'm looking up on my iPhone, what's the weather? And I'm already deciding what consequence might happen and how I'll mitigate that. Well, if it rains, I'll just take the umbrella. This is part of that discernment. Okay? where our understanding synchronizes with a divine knowing. So I remember first I looked up that word synchronize, and that synchronize is when you get in harmony, when you get in balance, when you get in alignment, when you get in step with something. I personally am fascinated by synchronization. I love it. I love watching figure skaters or high divers that are diving together, or the way the dolphins jump. I just watched again over the holidays a movie, Drumline, the original Drumline. I love drum lines that, and there's everybody like right on that same beat. There's just something about that. I love that in choirs, where the individual is making the choice to be in alignment. That choice to synchronize and move in rhythm with, and there is a power that comes out of that. We sometimes refer to that as synergy, where the total is greater than the sum of the parts. And I look at synergy as synchronized energy. Like that's the synergy. When things come together, they're actually more powerful than they would have been just on their own. So that's my first clue here about this discernment thing. That there's something that's going to be more powerful when it comes together. That there's going to be a greater something. And then I was really trying to figure out in my own mind, what is the difference, what is the message here between the concept of understanding and knowing? It says it's when our human understanding synchronizes with a divine knowing. And I'm still chewing on that. And what I'm getting thus far, just within the last several hours, is that there's a lot we don't know. Most everything we actually don't know. We really don't. But we do have a bit of an understanding about how it works. We don't know what anything is. We don't really know what love is. We don't know it. We can't define it. But we do have a bit of an understanding about how it works. Enough that we can recognize it when we see it and be aware when it seems to be waning a little bit. Do we know what life is? Can anybody tell you what life, or like what is beauty? What is joy? What is peace? We don't know what things are, really. We don't even know what our own life is or our own life experience. But we do grasp bits of understanding. And we have to develop the courage to step out on the little bit we understand, even when we don't know. We have to be willing to move with just the stuff that's rustling within us. We may not get the whole picture, but I do understand that I'm supposed to talk to that person that I don't want to talk to. I may not really know why, I may not really get why, but I'm very clear within me. I'm understanding that something's nudging me in that direction. Okay? I don't really know how the plane flies. But I understand that somebody knows. And I'm willing to get on that plane with my understanding that somebody knows. We confuse our not knowing with something being unknown. I was visiting somebody in the hospital a couple of days ago, and I was sharing this example with them, a young man. And I said, his phone was on the ledge there, and I said, do you have a GPS system? And he said, yes. I said, do you use your GPS system when you drive? He said, yes. I said, you may not know where you are when you're driving, but you are not lost. You may not know where you are, but you're not lost. There's a satellite that's tracking you, that knows exactly where you are. You may not know, but you're not lost. That if you start to go this direction, rerouting, and if you start to go that direction, rerouting, it's like no matter which direction you go, it's rerouting you to where you're trying to get to. Are you with me? Okay. The discernment is not in the knowing the full map of how to get from here to there. The discernment is stopping long enough to respond to each rerouting. Turn left, turn right, go backwards, make a U. Are you? That's the discernment. The discernment is this little kind of incremental, step by step, not really sure necessarily what the whole big picture is, but reading the signs, getting enough clues, paying attention to the evidence, so to speak, and being so synchronized with it. Not fighting it, but harmonizing with it to the point where you can be led, guided, and directed. Okay. Breathe that in for a moment. Breathe that in. Don't get stuck on inner, outer. Is it something talking to me out here? Is it a little voice within? Don't get stuck. Okay? Because all of that's a bunch of optical illusion. It's all the same stuff. When we say God is within, it's much like air. We have air in our lungs, yes? But why do we have air in our lungs? We have air in our lungs because we're walking around in air. We have air inside because there's air outside. Like it says in Scripture, in God we live and move and have our being. God is within because we're walking around in God. Now, don't get stuck on the word God either. Okay? like I said, we don't know what it is. That's just like a nickname. It's a reference point for something. You may use another term. You may use universe or life or infinite intelligence or wisdom or Father Sky or Mother Earth. I don't care. It doesn't care. I don't care. Rose is still a rose by any name. Don't get stuck. Okay? And if what I am saying, you understand it in a slightly different context, then interpret it, translate it, do whatever you got to do. But if there's any truth being said anywhere, it's going to resonate somewhere. So sometimes people will say, well, you know, what you said, it sounds really Buddhist, or it sounds really Zen. I'm like, yeah. Or it sounds really Hindu. Like, yeah. Or it sounds really that. Well, yeah, it should. Because the truth is the truth is the truth. People are articulating it slightly differently, but as sure as I am standing here, if you're following a spiritual tradition that doesn't sound like anything else, run. Fast. I am not joking. There are fundamental kernels of truth. And part of that discerning is not getting stuck on the package, not getting stuck on what it looks like or the shape that it comes in or who the messenger is. I remember in the black community, we used to say, the truth will be told, even if it takes a liar to tell it. This discernment thing. We used to say in the black community, I ain't got to see the skunk to know how he smells. That's discernment. That's discernment. I don't have to see all the details and whatnot here, but I understand that scent. I am aware of that, and I smell that something stinks up in here. I'm really serious. This knowing is so deep within. And we have to be willing to synchronize. Synchronize. Don't fight it. Don't deny it. Don't judge it. Just listen to it. And a lot of times you don't want to hear it. A lot of times you don't want to hear it. Because you can sense, this relationship's going to end. I'm going to have to move. This or that thing's not quite happening. So we want our discernment to be affirmative to what we already know. We try to use our powers of discernment sometimes to confirm what we already know, or what we think is going to happen, or how we think it's going to happen. It's not like that. There is a lot of bait and switch that goes on in life. Let me explain bait and switch. It's a marketing concept. I used to sell bar soaps, household cleaning products, and fabric softeners with Procter & Gamble. And we would flood the marketplace with these coupons, even before people had the product, to create the demand for that. And I learned a lot about the retail business and how it is that you do things. So what bait and switch would be, Procter & Gamble didn't do it, but I really learned to see this, was it would be like you advertise, come in and you're going to get this free TV. So you come in and, oh, we ran out of the free TVs. But here's this wonderful stereo system over here. Okay? So I get you in the door with the assumption it's going to be one thing, and when you get there, it's another. Okay? Light has a lot of bait and switch. It kind of reminds me of a Star Trek episode where they were on the hologram or holodeck, and people, these alien beings or whatever, were showing up as relatives of the people in Starfleet. Playing a kind of role like when people are sloughing off the body temple and like relatives that have passed away will show up and appear and kind of guide them into the light, sort of thing. And that's what these beings were doing. Like they were showing up in ways that are familiar to the people to get the trust, and they would go on and do whatever that is. Well, we're like that, where things have to look a certain way to us sometimes in order for us to be willing to take that step. I gotta think there's the TV to get into the store. Now, I know I got to go to the store. I know I need to, but it's got to look like a TV. Okay, it's got to look like, ooh, you're the person I've been waiting for. Or it's got to look like, oh, there's going to be this opportunity for us to be in this business relationship. Oh, it's got to look like, oh, this is where I'm going to move. Just to find out it's not that. Anybody have that experience? Okay. And what I've learned through the years is that the less attachment that we have, the less we feel like we've got to know what it's going to be, the less we do that, the less bait and switch there has to be. We don't have to be tricked, so to speak, into moving in a certain direction. I remember when I was really learning this in the early days of Inner Light, and it was kind of, I don't know why these movies are going through my head now, but like Raiders of the Lost Ark, where there'd be the abyss, and you'd have to put your foot out, and as soon as you put your foot out, boom, there'd be a stone to lift up. So I'm getting used to this. Okay, every time I put my foot out in the abyss, oh, there's a stone. So it's like, there's no stone. And then it started looking like a tightrope, which is a lot different than a stone. A lot different than a stone. And then in one moment, there wasn't no tightrope. And I was like, ah, ah. And I heard that spirit voice say, fly. Fly with the wings that I have given you. The way to get from here to there is to fly. So when you're hovering out there, you do it. you do it. It's like this joke we used to tell in ministerial school about this climber who falls off the ledge climbing and is holding on to this little bitty piece of tree that's hanging out from the stone. And he's pleading and pleading and begging to be saved and saved. And this angel flips around. Save me, save me, save me. And he says, okay, I'm right here, let go. What you talking about? What you talking about, let go? This discernment means we go deeper. It means we pay attention. We stay awake. We trust that there's something that does know. We don't know, but there's something that does know. The doctors don't know everything about your body, but God does. Something created a divine design, and it is not confused about your body. We can't keep putting our life in the hands of people who don't know. That includes us. Don't try to be your own GPS. I'm just saying. But there is something if we're willing to synchronize with it. When I was busy saying no this morning, I did say yes to one thing. I got this feeling that I was supposed to go and dig out a spirit letter to see if there was a message at the beginning of the millennium 20 years ago. And sure enough, there it was. 1.1.1.00. So I knew this is what I was guided to. And I just want to share it with you because it seems so appropriate. This is a new millennium message to the inner light community. So this actually came to us as a group, New Year's Eve vigil. This is time 12:15 a.m. So this is right at the start of the new millennium. We used to, before we bought this building, we would do old school, like I used to do the Pentecostal church. You're supposed to bring the new year in on your knees. So we thought a new millennium, let's do that. And we were all gathered together, and within 15 minutes came this message. It says, welcome, my children, to this moment in time in which you are referring to as the year 2000. This is indeed a most exciting time, not simply because it is the so-called turn of a millennium, so much as it is the turning of a point in consciousness. Understand what it is that I am saying here. The most amazing thing is the power of an idea when it catches hold all around the world. You see, you can begin anew at any time. You have collectively chosen this day, but it could just as well have been any day. Any day that you decide that you want to change individually and collectively, the entire universe agrees with you. You are indeed at the dawning of a new day. Do not misunderstand, however, that the peace, the goodwill, the harmony, the prosperity, the sharing, parentheses, all of the things that you have been praying for, begin at home. It's fine that you pray for the people that you don't know in far off distant lands, but what about the ones you live with? What about the ones next door? What about the ones you grew up with? What about the ones you work with? What about the ones you pass up on the street? What about the ones you read about in the paper? What about all of the ones all around you? Do you wish them the same goodwill that you are wishing people on the other side of the globe? Are you praying for as much peace in your households as you are praying for peace in the world? You, my children, in your places of unhealing, your wounded places that you would use as ammunition against one another, is very much likened to building your own personal arsenals. You worry so much about somebody dropping the bomb. But what about the bombs that you drop? What about this, my children? I do not say these things to scold you or to bring you on a quote-unquote downer, parentheses, as the dear Reverend daughter here would say. I say this so that this wonderful, tremendous energy that you are harnessing in this moment may be grounded and rooted in something that is real. You must ground all of this in something that is real. But what is this that you must ground in? You cannot ground in something outside of yourselves. You must ground within your own selves. The good that you are seeking must be good that you embody. You must become the things that you pray about. You must become the things that you pray for. Not so much in the sense of the outer manifestation, but in the sense of you feeling that you are at one with it. You can't bring anything into manifestation that you do not identify with. Your human psyche is far more in integrity than you would believe it to be. It will not allow you to have anything that you don't think that you deserve. Your human psyche will not allow you to experience anything that you truly cannot identify with. So the challenge in this particular moment in time is not just to see these wonderful things out picturing in the future of what you call a new millennium, but to feel these things resonating inside of your own being right here, right now, in your own home, in your own body temple, in your own places of work and worship. Bring it home, my children. Live it. Be it. I am indeed most pleased that all of you are in such a transcendent state of consciousness. I am grateful for all of the things that you acknowledged a little while ago in giving of your gratitudes, because each of you made the things of the Spirit of the greatest prominence. You weren't simply grateful for material things and well-being. You were grateful for being well, and for well being your very existence. This is a mighty good thing. And yes, you have all come from a mighty long way. However, I caution you, all of you, not just the ones that you mentioned in your sharing time earlier today, against relegating your moments of high enlightenment to being fleeting. Because the awareness does not last for more than what appears to be a couple of minutes for some, do not make the mistake of underestimating what happened, or in feeling that there's something wrong with you because you weren't able to, quote unquote, hold on to it. How long does it take? How long does a moment of truth have to last before you know that it's the truth? How deeply must something be imprinted upon your heart before you are willing to accept that it has, in fact, been engraved? How long? Healing is instantaneous. It may take some time for your outer world of effects to catch up, to manifest the truth of the shift that you have had in consciousness. However, the shift in consciousness is instantaneous. Sometimes you refer to it in your cultures at those moments of quote unquote high resolve. Remember your ahas, which is not the same thing as holding on to them. Remembering your ahas is not the same thing as holding on to it. When you hold on to it, you are afraid that it's going to go somewhere. When you hold on to it, you are afraid that you're never going to get it again. No, the real challenge is not to hold on. The real challenge is to remember. As the famous quote goes, all things come to him who waits, provided he has the courage not to deny in the darkness that which was revealed to him in the light. Then there's a parenthesis. Yes, my reverend daughter, that is the quote. Don't get stuck on the he and the him. In those moments, when it appears to be dark, remember that it is when the light of a single candle appears that it is the most luminous. The darker it appears to be, the greater the light is of a single candle. That's why it says in Scripture that it is better to light a single candle than it is to curse the darkness. All of you, and I do mean all of you, have had a very personal experience of your oneness with me. Do not allow the grit and the grind of the journey to make you wonder or doubt one iota of the reality of those experiences. You get to choose, my children, what it is that you believe in. How well you know this. You are willing to stand in face of all of the doomsayers calling this day Armageddon. And you are willing to say, oh no, that's not what I see. I see the dawning of a brand new day. Well, this is the same kind of boldness you need to have all of the time. You can say to your own self, when you are getting into your own Armageddon consciousness about your own life, just say to yourself, this is not what I see. I see the dawning of a brand new day. Notice how many of you in your gratitudes gave thanks for something that appeared to be hard at some point in time. How many of you gave thanks for things that you said that you didn't even like? Well, if you gave thanks earlier, it wouldn't appear to be so hard. If you gave thanks earlier, you might just grow to like it sooner. And if you can remember that it isn't just about one day, you may grow to appreciate the quote unquote lessons that are right in front of you. You can appreciate it now. Like I told the dear reverend daughter here, if she would just do this more often, she wouldn't have to keep asking the question, is it funny yet? It would be funny in the moment. Your resistances, your gnawing and gnashing of teeth would be funnier to you in the moment. This is a wonderful new time. And some incredible things will be happening to you individually and collectively, and within the context of what you are all participating in, known as Inner Light Ministries. No eyes have not seen nor ears heard of the wonderful contributions that are going to be made by you, individually, collectively, and as this ministry. Go forth and multiply this consciousness. I love you. I love you all, and Happy New Year. "20 years ago, never gets old. Truth never gets old. Never, ever, ever." We're going to do our prayer just a little bit differently today. I am very, very pleased to introduce to our community someone who's filling a brand new position. It's a position we've been talking about for a long time. And this is our community ministry coordinator. So this is someone who's going to be organizing and facilitating the things that happen here locally in Santa Cruz, including supervising the volunteers and overseeing the Sunday services. It'll probably be April or so when we go over to the Vets building. And somebody that you will get to know quite well. She happened to be here when we had our Rally the Spirit Fest. And I was talking about the fact that we were looking for this, and I put it even in the program, just blast out. And she wrote me an email and basically said, "I want to be on your team. I don't even care what it is. It's like, I want to be on your team, and I'm putting my hat in the ring early because I don't want to miss out. I want to make sure I don't miss that window." She hails to us from the religious science of mind tradition that I actually was trained in. She's been a member of the Centers for Spiritual Living in Santa Rosa for the last 20 years, and a practitioner there for the last 10, a ministerial student at the Holmes Institute, the regional campus that's actually at that particular church facility. That's where I go and teach when I'm teaching for Holmes. A long history of organizing and supervising. She's actually on the staff of that church now, completing that as their logistics manager and volunteer coordinator, over about 250 volunteers. You know, this is a really big deal for us. And it takes a combination of skills that actually I didn't expect to find all in one person. I didn't. I didn't expect to get the technical skills, somebody who has supervised staffs, and she's run Pride Sonoma County for 4 years, the Russian River Women's Weekend for years, and trained with the Lakota tradition and doing sweats and ceremonial, kind of stuff. And has that really personable touch thing, I'm still working on that. I'm not as cold as I used to be, but I'm not like warm and fuzzy. It's not quite that. But I'm better. I used to, you couldn't even hug me like years ago. But somebody who's personable and all of that too. No longer living in Santa Rosa, now living in San Jose. newly engaged. She and her partner just got engaged over the holiday weekend here. And they happen to both be here, and I would like to introduce you to our new community ministry coordinator, Donna Starr.
Thank you.